and clear. So I would like to welcome everyone officially to WSI's Digital Power Hour series. Today's webinar is entitled 3 Ways to Guarantee Customers Don't Abandon Your Mobile Site. My name, as I mentioned, is Cheryl Baldwin. I'm Director of Marketing Communications at WSI Corporate, and I will be your host today. I just want to go through a couple of housekeeping items before we get started. Everyone has been muted, so if you have any questions, just type them into the question box. We will be having an official Q&A session at the end of the webinar. I get this question a lot. Yes, the webinar is being recorded, and that will be shared with you by the consultant or staff member that referred you to this webinar afterwards. So don't worry if you missed something or want to revisit something, you will have a recording of the webinar available to you. So just a little bit about WSI in case you aren't familiar with who we are. WSI boasts the largest network of digital marketing consultants across the world. We have offices in more than 80 countries internationally and provide digital marketing solutions like website design, mobile sites and development, pay-per-click, SEO, social media, email marketing, and of course other mobile marketing services. And we provide those to businesses of all sizes and across all industries. So now I'd really like to introduce our speaker for today. And joining me to present and talk about mobile site strategies and specifically how to develop your online presence with your mobile audience in mind is Sikander Jamal. And Sikander has been a member of our WSI network since 2011, and he operates his office out of Portugal. He has over 30 years of professional experience in the creation, development, and management of business. And prior to joining WSI, he was the small and mid-market business manager for Microsoft Portugal. So he has lots of great expertise to share with you. He's earned a number of industry certifications, including his digital marketing certification with WSI, as well as his analytics certification with Google. And I know Sikander is very eager to share a lot of great information with you today. So without further ado, I'm going to pass it over to Sikander.
Hello. Thank you, Cheryl. Thank you very much for your kind introduction. Hello, everyone. In the next 40 to 45 minutes, just before, I'm a native Portuguese speaker, and I tend sometimes to speak fast. So please, if you find difficult to understand what I'm saying, just put something on the chat box and let me know what's going on, or share you, so I can make it slower. So in the next 40 to 45 minutes, I would like to stress about the importance of having a mobile strategy, guide you through the minimum required to thrive in the digital world, and finally, I would talk about one of the most ignored but very easy way to reach, engage, and delight customers. Yes, so if you're not mobile ready, you are risking the future of your business. There are hundreds of research and statistical data widely available online why you should embrace mobile. But instead, let me walk you through a different set of reasons and evidences why you should develop a sound mobile presence. I will do this and then give you what I consider to be the minimum required tactics and decisions you will have to make to start building your successful online mobile presence. As I was reading this survey that recently was released by Google and Nielsen, I kept thinking to myself, what unbelievable numbers, and especially in the first point. They say consumers spend 15 plus hours per week researching on their smartphone on average while visiting mobile sites 6 times. Well, as I was reading this sounded to me, very awkward, and I kept thinking, they probably did. They did this survey to, and they talked to very fanatic mobile users, or they were commissioned on this study by some telco company. Well, Google was one of the companies involved in this study, or even a mobile manufacturer that was trying to sell something like more broadband search or something like that. So I said, well, I've been in the technology sector for almost all my life, and being one of the victims of technology, of course, I was one of the early adopters of the mobile phones. And I said, well, why don't I try to measure how much time I actually spend on doing all different tasks I do on my mobile. So I went on Google and tried to search an app that could help me, in a simple way, measure the time I spend in the different apps and browser, email, Google Analytics app that is in there, because every day I do go there to check how the campaigns of my customers are going, reading emails, social media, once a day at least I go and check my LinkedIn, Twitter, Google account and see what's going on. So, I could not find an app for Apple. Though, if any of you have an Android, there is an app for that. It's App Timer Mini that allows you to measure each time you spend on how much time you spend on an application per day. But anyways, I ended up finding a way to do that. Well, not very scientifically, but gives me an overview of a feature that comes on iOS, because I have an iPhone, which is a feature that allows me to see the usage of my phone and how much time the phone is being used and how much time the phone is idle or on standby. And I have to say, I felt a bit ashamed of the numbers I saw there, because believe it or not, I use my mobile 3 to 4 hours a day. And I'm discounting all the things that could happen during the phone and the usage. Reality is, I do spend a lot of time on my iPhone. It confirmed this, and and basically it confirmed my wife's complaint that I was not very aware of I was not very social aware of what's going on, so I was keep going on my iPhone. So it was not very, very nice as this. But anyways, in a way it confirmed. So if there's a lot of statistics here, we can confirm in different ways. When we look at the findings in the analytics of our customers, mobile research starts with a search. We can see that, and I'll show you along this presentation how we find all these different data. But there's one thing, if you allow me to finish on this, is that probably most of you, at least I would believe more than 90% that are in this call, I certainly do that, is that we never leave our home. We never leave in the morning without our house keys, our wallet, and of course our phone. So the phone is basically, if you look at that, you can I normally kid around this and say that, joke around this and say that this is part of my body. It's embedded in there. So I feel naked without a mobile phone with me during the day. Yet, all data we get from the market shows that 63% of the business in the world today don't have a web presence, and those that do, over 90% of them need to be redeveloped as the world goes mobile. In today's world, digital marketing is something every company needs, and yet very few companies are properly addressing. This is the reason today that I will not talk about the all overwhelming possible strategies you can build in mobile, but I will focus on the minimum required tasks you will need to accomplish to start your online mobile presence and thrive in the digital world. As I said, you've probably seen hundreds, tens, or even hundreds of stats showing why every business should have a strong mobile presence. I brought this quote to show you what top companies like Coca-Cola are thinking and are planning in mobile, and shows how serious they are about their budget dollars in their mobile strategy. And please make no mistake, what Mr. Tripodi says here is they will move to mobile more than 15% of their overall spend, and that they will do this in a couple of years. Do you feel the urgency? One other point I want to stress here is that building your online presence is not a sprint but a marathon. You strategize, you implement, you build, and then you test and improve. It's a virtuous circle. Another case that I wanted to bring is Marks & Spencer, one of the biggest European retailers. In their annual report last March, this means literally 3 months ago, it is clear how mobile is impacting and is growing and impacting their revenue. it also shows the importance that mobile and tablets play a critical role in their strategy. This quote made last year by Mary Meeker. She's a well-known thought leader in the Silicon Valley. You may have heard of her. Every year, people anxiously wait for a report that comes out in May. Highlights the importance of mobile. When I read this, I immediately recall several good and bad stories about big companies that did not listen or did listen to the market signs in the past. You probably recall Blockbuster or Kodak, companies that went bankrupt in a matter of years. Whatever people might say to justify their failure, reality is that both lost their predominance they had in their respective markets, video in one case and photography on the other, by not responding fast enough to the changes that the market was going through. But we also have very good case studies of big companies that developed the right strategies, like Apple, that recognized the shift that was happening and adopted the technology that was already available and surfed the wave of smartphones. Another example that immediately came to my mind is Jeff Bezos from Amazon, who invested in an early sign that paper was moving to digital and launched a full strategy around e-books and reading devices like Kindle. I'm sure all of you have heard, until the day actually that they started to sell more digital books than paper books. We have enough signs of changes in the way people consume information and educate themselves. And in this case, not for any specific vertical. All business fight to find the exact location where the audience is to be and engage and wants to engage this audience. Mobile in today's world is definitely a place where you will find a significant share of your audience. Well, having said all this, and if you still need more evidence of data regarding mobile, please check these reports, or even go to Google and do a search on Mobile Statistics 2004. You will find tons of information. And if this does not convince you that you need to act now, then I rest my case. Believe me, I do not get any royalties, sales, or of devices, nor the worldwide production of mobile websites or apps. Personally, as a digital market consultant, I reject any customer that is not willing to set some part of their budget in mobile. Okay, so let's get into the details. Now that we have set the stage, the question is, where do we start from? And as in everything, when you think of a brick and mortar business, the first thing you think of is where do I open my retail outlet? Where do I open my, if it's a B2B, so where am I open my office? Because the location that will drive is the location that most times drives most of the traffic for my business, correct? So if you want to have an online mobile presence, you need to start thinking of what is the infrastructure, the outlet, from where you start your business, and that will help capture as much traffic as possible. And that will be your main property, where you will want mobile traffic to land, and of course, give them the best experience possible. So the decision you have to make is what the main technologies you will have to leverage to capture service and delight your customers and build a mobile website. Later, I will describe the difference between these two options. If you want to build a mobile presence, a mobile website is not optional, and I re-emphasize this. A mobile website in today's world is not optional. What is optional is if you will need one or more apps that could bring good return to your business, and what kind of services the app or apps would provide to your audience. So normally the question I get from my customers are, how do I know the urgency in having a mobile website today? I really see the value in building an app to engage my audience, but building for all devices is costly. Does it make sense to launch for just one platform like Apple iPhone? To answer this question, what I normally do is read the analytics and then start a discussion. Let me quickly show you what I'm talking about. Of course, to read these, you will need to have some sort of analytics system installed on your site. Google Analytics is free and good and it's a very good job. Actually, extremely good job. If you do not have analytics implemented in your current site, do so quick. you cannot improve what you do not measure. I think I've heard someone saying that, so someone quoting this. So let's look at one of the possible data that I look for when I start getting questions. When you look at this slide, you will see first of all, this site, I mean, we're looking at 30-day traffic period on this slide. So when you look at this side, you will see new users traffic, and you see that they have 16,000 new users coming that came on this period. And from that 16,000 new users, 16% of them came from a mobile device. So that's basically 2.8 thousand users. And another 8% came from tablet devices. So 1/4 of their total traffic was coming from non-desktop devices. Only by this analysis I see the need to have a proper mobile website to serve my customers. Now let's dig a bit more. What you see next is bounce rate. Okay? See how the bounce rate for mobile is significantly higher for mobile devices. By the way, just in case some of you do not know what bounce rate means, in general terms, bounce rate reflects all entries that did not move beyond the page that the user landed in your site. And finally, and not to complicate too much, because at this stage, the idea is not looking at these, too much on these points, but we look at the conversions. What we want to understand is who is not, by the way, who is not acquainted with analytics means the actions that the user did are not part of our funnel. An action that is of interest for our business, and this could be for an e-commerce site, a sell, for a normal B2B site, a form filled by the customer requesting, for example, to be contacted. See how low the traffic comes from mobile devices to convert. Very low. I would say if you see something like this, you definitely need to rush into building your mobile website. We can dig a bit further and try to understand more data. And now looking at the source of traffic, for example, all the traffic that comes from a mobile device, we want to understand how did they get there. So while they're sitting on the mobile, we see that more than 90% of traffic comes from three sources. Referral, which is typically, this means links from other sites drove this traffic to this site. Organic means links in search engines drove traffic to this site. Remember these when we talk later about SEO, search engine optimization. And remember what the findings were saying about how much time people spend in searching for information on their mobiles. Direct, these are people that type the address of this website that came directly. If you look closer, what I see is people that came in directly and people that were referred to this site did not like what they saw and left. Isn't it a shame to disappoint so many people that came from word of mouth, most commonly the best marketing you can do for your business? To the question in which platform for my app I should focus first, here you can see some data that will lead you where to go next. And if you look at this line, in this case, 50% of their mobile devices come from iOS devices. This is where some very basic analysis. You probably want to dig more in trying to understand all what that is happening in your site. But I just wanted to give you a flavor of what I like most about digital marketing. It's so much easier and effective to measure compared to analog world. After reading Marks and Spencer annual report, the start that I showed you, or the slide that I showed you on Marks and Spencer annual report, I became curious about how was their mobile implementation. Again, just going into their web properties, I found that they have a desktop site. They have the same layout for the iPad screen, but the server seems to be aware that I was accessing it through an iPad device. I know that because each time I enter through my iPad, there would be a message coming on the left top side of my screen asking me to save on my screen, specifically for the iPad. And then they have an iOS app. They have an adaptive mobile site first, meaning when you type marksandspencer.com in your mobile browser, the server automatically redirects you to a different URL. And then they have an iOS app. They might have other for other devices, but also I did not check, so I'm not sure. I mean, how many apps they develop for many devices. The idea is just to give you a flavor of what a big retailer implements, their e-commerce properties. And of course, if you remember at the beginning, I showed you how this is helping them in their revenue. Mobile sales growing at 90%. And if you can see on these three screens, and if they're readable on your side, you will notice that each screen has different information. I mean, it's displayed in a different way. The information is the same, but it's displayed in a different way. They drive, you know, the consumer in a different way according to the device. You know, as I said, I don't want to go into too much technical details. You can consult your SSI expert for that. Let me quickly show you the main differences between an app and a mobile site. And typically an app, you know, is very good if you want to do a game in that interactive application because they can use the native functionalities of the device. You know, it doesn't require the connection. I'm sorry. You can personalize. It keeps all the information and all the things that you do on the app, so you can store locally and then communicate these to the main server. So the mobile apps, you know, is very specific. Very specific. If you can see on my slide, the top image has got an app, and this is a good example of a customer of ours who actually sells queue management systems. So they basically sell to hospitals, you know, public sector, where they, you know, people, businesses or institutions where there's a lot of traffic of people and waiting lists and stuff like that. So they build this app which they give for free to every customer and customer of a customer, so they can, you know, in a way to delight them and to help the customers improve their satisfaction while they're in the queue. So basically what it does, as an example, it helps someone that is, you know, went to a public place, took up a ticket, and it keeps him informed how many people are in front of him, which means you can go around, do some more other shopping, go to the coffee shop, and don't stay there waiting and thinking about, you know, there's still another 10 people in front of you. So it's a very interesting app, and it makes all the sense in this case. Now, mobile websites have their advantages, and as I said, mobile websites for me, it's not an option. Why? Because first of all, they cannot be deleted like an app. So I can have an app if I get tired or if I get somehow not satisfied, I just delete the app, and I would never probably remember that. And a site is there and will be there as long as I want. You know, it's typically compatible across devices, and we'll talk a bit more on that. There's another one major important thing is that they are accessible and findable through search engine sites. And the cost of maintenance is low, and I'll explain a bit more further on. So, but before I go and deep dive on the difference of mobile sites that you can implement, let me explain you why this is important. When you look at these two images I have there, on the left you have a site that is not mobile ready. So basically it displays that it would display on a big monitor. If you can see there that you cannot understand the text. It's not very flexible. You need to zoom in, zoom out, so you typically will use more than one finger, if not the two ends. Too much information for mobile users, and they probably, you know, it's too large and it will be too slow to load on the mobile. And I'll talk about speed in a minute again. And on optimized, they're very easily to read. They have a flexible layout. You can, you know, scroll the site with one finger. the content is reduced to the essential elements that the customer would need on a device like that, and most probably faster, much faster to load. Just before I move on, just 2 data points to stress the relevance of having a mobile site. It's like we saw in the analytics I showed before. People actually say that they will not recommend a poorly designed website. And there is a high chance that people will go to a competitor site if they cannot easily read yours. So, as I said a few minutes ago, we have two types of mobile site typically that we can have. It's a responsive site or a adaptive site. The responsive site typically is the easiest, cheapest way to start your mobile journey. You just need one code only, and then the device will render the proper layout. So basically, one code, when the code gets to the device itself will understand which type of layout it needs to show. Works very well if you have a simple website with the main information of your business. So, if it doesn't need to be a very complex site. And actually, Google loves this kind. So Google gives actually some importance to sites that have this type of technology, and so it favors in their search display. The adaptive is a bit different because the adaptive, basically what we do in adaptive mobile site, first we have a different URL. So when a device like an iOS, I put there maxandspencer.com, it will respond to me with m.maxandspencer.com because it's a different site, it's a mobile site. So it's independent from the desktop site. The information behind can be the same, but the way it's displayed, the way it is showed, we have a lot of flexibility. But of course, there's costs on that. First of all, you need to work on the different size of screens, and then you need to do different SEO because you have different URLs. So this is relevant if you have a complex website and you need to simplify the information for the mobile device user. It helps you give access to the most important relevant information that makes sense to a mobile user that can read comfortably. Remember the initial slide that I presented. You want to be findable by the search engines. People tend to look for businesses that are close by, so contact information with clear location is critical to be easily accessible, particularly from a mobile. For you to understand better what I'm talking about, look at Max and Spencer's site from a desktop and then from a mobile. And you will understand how easy they make for the mobile users to reach and accomplish their tasks. So, moving to the next point, which is email, we have some very interesting data. According to Radicati Group, there are 15 billion legitimate emails opened daily on a mobile device. According to T-Mobile, another player, says that 150 is the number of times the average mobile user checks their device per day. I'm not discussing this number again on my side. And probably most of you use this form of messaging to get to your prospect or customers. I mean, I hardly find a business that doesn't use email today. It's cheap, easy, and very effective when properly done. Normally gives a huge return. But if you're not considering how and in which device they are reading your email, then you might find that the results, after all, are so interesting. Are not so interesting. Close to half of your audience, most probably, is reading your emails on their mobile device. So let me quickly show some quick tips on how you could improve your results. I will talk about some of these on my next slides. Nevertheless, let's go through some of the things you should consider every time you design your email. You want to make it as simple as possible, either in design and content. You want to place call to action buttons need to be touch friendly. Where I can touch with one finger, and sometimes not a very thin finger. and I would say that, well, typically I do avoid text links on this type of emails. Do not use very small fonts because they're not readable on mobile. On mobile, there's a good pre-reader increase the open rates. I mean, if you look at my image, you can see that, this is how it comes normally on an iPhone. So you have the an iPhone and most of the phones. You have typically a first, the sender, then you have the subject, and then you have 2 lines of the initial text. That is critical to make me open or not an email, okay, or just delete it immediately. So you want to use that the best way you can. It definitely will increase, if you use it properly, increase your open rates. I'm highlighting this because on a desktop you can see that, but it's much easier for people to open than on a mobile because you're on transit, you're on a queue, you're having lunch, so you just want to move on. So, and then you need to be very careful of the images. And I'll talk about these in the next slides, but they need to be readable on a mobile. And you test, and test, because when you send an email, you don't know where they're opening the. So you need to make the email nice to see on a desktop, as well on an iPad, as well on a mobile device. And of course, if you talk to one specialist, they will tell you there is responsive code that you can use to do very much the same I was talking about the sites. And of course, I'm just talking about the technology itself, so please follow all the normal rules of email, like opt-in, don't send emails to someone that did not ask for it, give the unsubscribe option, etc., etc., etc. Okay, so now that I covered the different mobile websites properties that you could and should build, there are some basic stuff that you need to be aware as you start building your mobile properties. And these are text. I mean, we're looking at quality and quantity. We're looking at graphics. They need to be readable. We're looking at forms. How easy people can accomplish the tasks. And finally, speed. How fast the site was on a mobile device. So, text. Be aware that no one wants to read thousands of words on their mobile devices. Be very careful of the amount of information you display on your mobile devices. I do not have any specific rule for this, but if the page has more than 1,000 words, I start to try to clean it up, make it relevant, short but relevant. So it's not 80 880 rule. It's if you give them enough information. If you don't give them enough information, it can as well be damaging. So the secret is balancing between the quality and the quantity. So you need to make sure that they do learn from you, from your business, what they're searching for, but you don't want to make it too crowded because they won't read all of it. The other point that I mentioned, which is images. This is an example that I did here to show you one of the how you should be careful. So if you look at the one on the left, it can be read on any device, whether it's desktop, email, iPhone, tablet, whatever. The one on the right, it reads very well on a desktop, but definitely, as you can see, even from here, it will not be read, possibly to be read on a mobile. So we don't want to stress people because this would force people to, again, start using at least 2 fingers to zoom in and zoom out. So of course, what we would try to do here is to put the left one and the information which is very relevant that comes on the right one, put it on the text right after the image, so that you would balance this. So you have to be careful, especially if you're using artistic photography. Also be careful because sometimes the details are very important, and you could lose the whole impact by not being care of this. Forms. The idea, I mean, if you look at these cases, this is very important on mobile websites. And if you go to the major retailers, the major airline companies today, they do work well on this. So we want customers to convert, right? We want them to buy. So for that, we need to make the task as easy as possible. So first, only ask for the critical information that you need to accomplish what you're trying to. Then pre-populate as much as possible so that only by clicking with a finger, you do most of the things. Under the two cases here, on the left one is asking to sign in, and for example, on the top you see the social networks where you can sign in using your social network account. So which means it would be click here, another window would open to say, do you authorize? Yes, come back to here and it's done. Okay, so very easy, very straightforward. The other one is Expedia, and very known site also for tourism traveling, sorry. And if you see, it's all crowded with buttons, and they actually populate a lot of information. If you're looking for hotels, it just asks you for a city, address, or whatever, date, and it's all click, click, click. Number of people click, and then such. Done. If you do for flights, it will be the same. They will ask as minimum questions possible to make it fast and an enjoyable trip for the user. Location again. Now, make sure you have all the relevant information, and I've got a typo here on the top of the slide, so I apologize for that. So this is location we're talking about. Make sure you have all the relevant information how to get to your business. Whether you have an office, a store, or multiple locations, it doesn't matter. You just make easy for them to reach you, giving them directions, map, whatever needed to make it easy for them to find you or get to you. And one last thing, which is speed, and we've sort of talked about this a moment ago, and I just wanted to give you some data here, which it's people hate to wait, especially if they're on a mobile. There is a common rule that people will not wait for more than 3 seconds to load your page on any site, much more on a mobile. And here you can find additional evidence of what I'm saying. I mean, there's a study by Aberdeen Group that says 1 second delay in the page load time results in 11 fewer page views, 16% decrease in customer satisfaction, and 7% loss in conversions. This is huge. Amazon, they are champions, and they did a lot of tests. And one of the things they've came up to is 100 milliseconds were improving reduced time in loads. Were impacting in 1% of their revenue increase. So this is huge, huge. Walmart is the same, 2% increase in conversions for every second of improvement on load time. So be particularly aware of the speed that your site takes to care. Now, the question is, how do I know, how do I get there? So, and you find these on, again, guess what? Google Analytics, that gives you detailed of each page and the time and the amount of time it takes to load, and also gives you the number of suggestions that you make on your code to make it a code of images or whatever, because the images also, you don't load resolution, very high resolutions. You load the required amount that you want in terms of resolution of the picture. But if you click here, you'll go to Google's Page Speed Insights, and where they tell you exactly what they see that could benefit the speed of your site. Now, if you do not have in-house expertise, do not try to click and see, because it becomes very technical. Call your WSI consultant. He will be able to help you on that. Okay, so what's not dead? SMS. Here is the tool that is very alive today. According to Microsoft, there's 3 billion SMS-enabled smartphone users. The numbers are so amazing. I mean, every year there is trillions of messages. I mean, we're not talking billions, there are trillions of messages exchanged around the world. In 2016, the forecast is 9.5 trillion. I'm sure you agree with me. This is very, very alive. Yet, so many people use it. And, also data shows us that 98% of all SMS and MMS messages are open. Do you have any other way with this type of open rate? Don't. More, if there is interest from the reader, you get a response faster. I mean, it's 4 minutes for an SMS against 8 hours on an email. Huge. Now, how do you can use SMS? How can you leverage these? So there are a few tips that I can get you here. You can use this to notify customers of emergency or important time-sensitive information, order status. It helps to service the customer. Remind customers about upcoming events or appointments if you do webinars like us, like we're doing, or you're doing events somewhere, or if you're a doctor, that could help us to improve their satisfaction. Drive people to the store by, one thing I do receive from a lot of major outlets in Portugal is alerts from their pre-sale season. So as I'm a registered member, they tell me, one day before the sale season starts, you can come here as a preferred customer and come and buy. It delights me to know that and get there and get all the sizes and everything before all the others get in. Delight customers. There's a bank where I have an account for 20 years now. For the past 10 years, every first minute of my birthday, on the day of my birthday, they send me a message wishing me a good day. I mean, difficult not to delight someone like that, right? And of course, you can use for other things like allow customers to subscribe to your email programs, automatic capturing email, where you can use a shortcode to do that. And this is it. Right in time, I think. Very simple, but if you follow some of my suggestions here, you should see the increased returns in your online presence. If you get your mobile site, as I said, in my view, it's not optional. It's compulsory, because in today's world, there's a lot of people, and it's growing the number of people that are coming to our web properties through the mobile device. You have to take a decision and look at your business, and if it makes sense to have a mobile app or more than one to engage customers. Email, as I said, still like fax was a few years ago, email today is the main communication way, and people are reading that on devices every day, and we've seen the evidence for that. So make sure you just correct, because you're probably doing that. You just need to correct and make sure that you engage properly. And don't forget about the small details, like the amount of text you put there, the type of the size of the font, the images, how much crowded they are, the speed of the site, load of the site, how the forms that you put in on your website, how easy that makes for them to easily do whatever we want them to do. And last but not least, SMS is not dead. So take as much as you can from that because it's there and it's very alive. Thank you very much, everyone. And Cheryl, thank you again. And hand over back to you for Q&A.
Great. Thanks, Sikander. So for those that have some questions, please just type them in. We're going to go through some of those. I've got some already. And Sikander, one of the questions is, because you were discussing two different options when it comes to your website, your mobile website, which is, you can either do a responsive one or an adaptive one. And in your opinion, if I already have a website built and I don't have a mobile, either one of those available yet, which one is the easiest one to implement from an already built site?
Well, it depends, and we would need to understand how your site was built. I would really talk to a WSI consultant, an expert on that, and try to understand, what do you have today, and how can you move from there, and what would be the easiest way? Build a totally different mobile site, and if it made sense, or redevelop the one that you have, or just adapt it, because that could be possible. Depends on how it was built.
Okay, great. So some sort of, kind of look at the actual technology it's on is definitely something that has to be looked at first. Awesome.
Yes, definitely.
I know that you had some of your examples. There's some questions around that were, B2C examples, especially on the business to consumer examples, especially on the app. Do you think, in your opinion, that a mobile application is really more a B2C, or could a business-to-business company be looking at app use as well?
I think it depends on the business you're doing. And actually, the case I gave on the app that I showed there, the queue management system, Well, the company, which is called ProSite, they sell the software to other businesses, institutions or hospitals, as I said. Now, what he did was developed an application that they were offering to the customers of their customers, but basically they are delighting the actual customers that they have. So it depends on what kind of business you have, and it could make sense. You could have a very close group of e-commerce. If you have a partner network, for example, it would make sense. If you have channel partners where you want to engage with them, that could make sense. I come from Microsoft. We had 4,000 partners in Portugal. That would make all the sense to develop, and we did have at a certain time an application in Windows, of course, and Windows device that would allow us to engage with those partners.
Great. I know I've got people asking, will they get access to the recording? Yes, you will, so don't worry about that. That will be handed out by the consultant or, WSI staff member that referred you to the webinar. Some questions on images and usage in mobile. And how do you really optimize your images for mobile? Maybe just, recap that again.
Yeah, well, and I can say a bit more because I was trying to make sure that I wouldn't go over time. So when you look at the images first, so the first thing I would see is I would make sure that it's web optimized. So we don't, for someone who understands about graphics, we don't want a 300 dpi image. We want a 75 dpi image, for example. Okay, so light. Second is if the image we're going to use on the site has a size of 500 pixels by 300, we want to make that picture that size. We don't want to put there and let the system optimize that because it becomes lighter. Then it comes on the design of the image. The type of image we use. It's easy because you open, if you have an image, just open that on your mobile and you see if you can read it immediately or not. If you have to use your fingers to zoom in and zoom out, then it doesn't help. So you're trying to make sure that they are very simple, very straightforward. You can read them from mobile. You can read from a desktop easily.
Yeah, exactly. And on that kind of, just to add on to when you're optimizing your images, I mean, anyone using any form of, Adobe Creative Suite, whether it's Photoshop or Illustrator, I mean, there's an option for you actually to save your images for web optimization. So that would be the way you do it and make sure it's at that 72 dpi.
I can see that technically you know a lot more than me.
Sorry, that's just my graphic design stuff.
Yeah.
And specifically, I guess, so you mentioned, some of the, ways to save images. Are there any specific size, like dimensions or pixel dimensions that you would use overall that are overriding when you use on a site?
No. I mean, of course, if you want to do specific for mobile and not, you're not adapting that to anything else. I mean, because when we're doing responsive, basically, you do it for a size that would fit a desktop screen, and then that would be resized for the mobile. So it will depend a lot on what you're trying to do. So if you're trying to do specifically for mobile, you'll have a size of the screen that you can find easily. I don't have it out of my mind. But for a PC would go 900 by 400 would be typically a banner on the top, the big banner. So you just play around with that. And, but as I said, you make it as short as possible because that would definitely impact the speed of loading of the.
Great. And just there's some questions here, I guess, on the optimization part when it comes to your sites. Now, obviously, you talked about if you're using a responsive web design, it's all optimization is all done on the one site. When it comes to optimizing for your mobile site and how that's handled, just both on the search and the, I guess, the page search standpoint, how does that normally work out?
Sorry, I lost a bit the communication here. So you're trying to compare how it works out between the adaptive and the responsive, or?
No, the question was specifically on like how you go about doing the optimization for your mobile site if you're not doing responsive. Because if you're doing responsive and you're optimizing just one site, but how you go about optimizing the multiple sites if you're doing an adaptive.
Well, basically you go through the same process you go on to optimizing your normal desktop website. So basically, you have to build links, you have to, to prepare your offline and online page, offline links. You need to make sure that, on site you follow all the rules, the best practices that Google recommends and other search engines, and then you build the linking. So if you have different URLs, then you'll have to work for both.
Yeah.
So it's sort of double trouble.
Yeah.
But can be done. It's not very complex, and it's always the question is, do I get the return on investment? So I'm doing this for some reason, and if that reason makes sense in terms of how much I'll get back, right?
Yeah, exactly. And how about like your paid search campaigns? How does that work in relation to the mobile site?
That is something definitely worthwhile speaking. I mean, it works on today. For example, if you do paid search, Google today gives you a lot of options where you can, if you're showing your ads on a mobile, to optimize that for mobile. For example, call to click, where you with one finger you will click on a phone sign, and then that immediately will give you give you the number for you to call immediately. It will give you the address if you want. On that side, it's almost more than an hour for us to talk about if we're going on that side. But basically, Google does, in case of Google, but others do the same. Bing and Yahoo. They basically give you a set of options where you can actually customize if the user is coming from a device, because they know that. They know the user is searching from a device, so they can actually adapt the information according to your request on what you want to be shown there.
Great. Yeah. I mean, you're right. That's a whole probably topic in along itself.
I think we have a webinar on that, right?
Yeah. I'm sure we've done one on it somewhere.
For sure.
On the SMS front, what sort of companies in your mind really benefit from that sort of strategy and that should be looking into that?
Well, B2C companies there for sure, all of them. I mean, if you have a loyalty program, if you're in a banking area, if you're in the telco, if you talk to the masses, it's definitely very good to use. Okay, even on B2B, because on B2B, imagine that you do a lot of events to your customers during the year. That can help first. You can engage them through email, through several other places where they register, and then you can update them as the event comes closer. So you can use that. It's a very, very good service. It helps the customer. If you have appointments, for example. I have one B2B customer, company that I work with as a supplier, and they send to me always, the day before I have a meeting with one of their managers, I receive an email saying, if you cannot make it, please let us know in advance.
Oh, okay, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Okay, so birthday for reminders in B2C works very well, I'll tell you. I mean, the bank, I will never forget that, if they one day don't send me on my birthday the message, I probably have a claim to make there. Because I'm so used to it.
Yeah, and so I guess just kind of as a follow-up to that, what are some of for companies that haven't started to collect their cell numbers of their customers, what are some of those tactics that they could use to get that started?
Well, depends. I mean, it comes to the same again. I mean, you can alert on your site on the messaging that you're doing today with email and saying if you want us to communicate, for example, a reminder of your next meeting or next Nocturne meeting, whatever, or be advised on, for example, the airline companies do that a lot. I mean, they actually, most of them, when you buy your ticket, they ask you, do you have a mobile phone? Do you want to receive an SMS on delays or stuff like that? There's many airlines doing that. TAP in Portugal for sure is doing that. So you see, they ask me, for example, the mobile number when I'm buying the ticket. Every time, unless if I'm, as I am, in TAP, I've got a loyalty card, the miles program.
Yes.
Of course, they've got all that information. But I keep receiving from them saying, tomorrow your flight, you flight tomorrow, one day before, and then probably if it's delayed, which thankfully is not happening much, but they would send you a message on that.
Okay. Yeah.
Okay. So you can collect at many different stages, right? So you can collect when you're trying to engage the customer later on, but when you have when you have an interaction with the customer, and if SMS is very well into your campaigns, what you do is you try to add that and explain to the customer why you're asking, and make it optional. You don't need to force that.
Great. One last question here. I know you didn't really touch upon it specifically, but maybe you just have some insight. One question on how do videos work when it comes to the mobile device?
Wow, you should. I mean, I should have put that number here. It's overwhelming, the number of people watching video on mobile. It works very well.
Yeah.
It seems people love it. I mean, I don't have a specific reason for that, but I know the consumption of video on mobile is huge.
Yeah. And I know when you leverage things like YouTube and other video sites like Vimeo, I mean, they've taken that into account, so those videos are able to play on your device. Yes,
exactly, and thank you very much for bringing that. Yes, exactly. So the search engines, when they see that, they will show that to you.
Okay, great. So that's it, just so we can get everyone up to, out at the top of the hour. I just want to wrap up. Sikander, maybe if you can just move me through the last couple of slides here.
Sure, please. Yes, sure.
So, a lot of information shared there. Obviously, I mean, we do a lot just on the whole digital marketing front. In our book, 12 Things Every Business Needs to Know About Digital Marketing, there's a whole chapter in there about mobile marketing. So, if you don't have a copy or you haven't read it, I mean, I know you can go to Amazon and there's a free Kindle version. So I would recommend you check that out if you haven't seen it. If you just move to the last slide there, Sikander, I mean, I would just like to say a big thank you to, first, for everyone for attending and taking the time out. I know, sometimes it's hard to take an hour out of your day. I also know we're struggling against some summer months here, so thanks for doing that. Big thank you to Sikander for sharing his wisdom with us today. We love to hear your feedback on our webinars, so there is a survey that you will get as your follow-up package is sent with the recording, as well as some other documents, including our marketing guide, which I've actually posted the link to here. So that's a little quick checklist on some of the stuff you need to know on the mobile marketing side. We've also put together a great infographic just around mobile, so check that out. And again, if you have any questions, please do not hesitate to reach out to your WSI consultant, and they're the experts on this stuff, so they can definitely answer the questions you have and, discuss some of your strategies that you could be doing with mobile. So once again, thanks to you all, and thank you, Sikander, and I hope everyone has a great day.
Thank you. Thank you.
Bye now.
Bye.